Hello, Carrie. How are you? We're about ready to do the final prep on this beautiful dough. The dough is risen about 125%. We used our little gauge, and it's nice and fluffy and happy, and we're going to grab this out of here so we don't waste anything. Hopefully. There we go. Anyway, the dough came out absolutely beautiful. So we're going to pull this out. Let it come out of here. It'll kind of pull itself out. Come on, baby. Absolutely beautiful. Put all this time and effort into it. We don't want to waste anything. There we go. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this in half. Stay a little bit of flour in my hands. And we don't want to use too much flour on this part of it. And we're going to cut this in half, and accuracy is not a big issue. Okay, now here's a loaf of bread, and here's a loaf of bread. And we're going to do this. We're going to try and strengthen this dough by pulling it across the counter, using the friction of the dough against the counter. Put a tiny amount of flour. We don't want to add too much flour at this point. But we're going to start forming a ball, and as we do this, it's actually going to start to get tighter and tighter, and you can see the skin of this getting smoother and also less sticky. You can do this with a bench scraper, or you can do it with your hand. It's probably easier to learn with the bench scraper. And as you can see, the ball is getting tighter and tighter. It's no longer sticky on top. Kind of magically, it just goes away as we develop more tension. And just drag it across, and when it pulls on the bottom, it creates a tighter layer on this side. Get bubbles, pop them. We don't want to have giant, huge voids in the bread. Lots of open crumb is great, but not like ridiculous. Another. Okay. Now I'm going to put a little flour on the deck here because we don't want it to stick. And we're going to put flour on the top. This is now the top of the loaf of the bread, and it's going to be like this. We're done with that. I'm going to put it upside down, and we're going to let this rest for about 20 minutes. It's called bench rest. I'm going to do the same for this loaf. Again, very little flour added at this point because we want to keep the ability to have tension against the countertop to give this friction. So it'll start forming again that nice tight skin. It gets this is actually a very nice dough, very easy to work with. Bubbles. Bubbles. Okay. We got a little bit of flour on the top. And we're going to turn it over. And we're done for the moment. Now we're going to let this rest 20 minutes with a towel on top to keep the moisture in. And we'll come back and we'll start the last phase, which is the final shaping and putting it in the baskets that have been pre-floured. I did that off camera, but you have to trust me. And we'll put them in the fridge after wrapping them in plastic, and we'll be all good. Okay, hello again. Welcome back. You see I have my baking shirt on. Makes it official. Means we're serious at this point. So now we're going to do the final shaping. It's been about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. We'll take it out of this. They've relaxed a little bit, which is kind of normal. And this is now the bottom of the loaf. So we're going to, we don't want to put flour on this. I want to just put a tiny bit on my hand. And the reason is we want this to stick together as we shape it. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of get it folding out, kind of get a big flatter square if we can. Try and not tear it. It's not the end of the world if that happens, but. And then we're going to fold it like an envelope onto itself. And then we're going to roll it. And now, this is the top. We flipped it over. We're going to dust it again. It absorbs some of that flour. We'll probably have to brush this off before baking because we don't want too much flour on it, but we don't want it to stick to the piece. And now we're going to take it. Here's our pre-floured, and we're going to drop it in here. And now that's going to continue to work its magic. And we're going to put this in a plastic bag, put it in the very cold refrigerator for 8 to 24 hours, or whatever. It doesn't really matter as long as it's got enough time in there. And that process is called retarding. Sorry about that word. We'll do the second one, same thing. Got a little too much in there, that's okay. It'll be fine. There's a lot of forgiveness in this, and there's about, from what I've seen, probably 50 different styles of this pre-shaping, and people are very religious about this part of it, but okay, fold it over, and we're going to fold it again, we're going to roll, we're making layers after layer, and there's our top. Nice and floured up. Now we're going to put it in here. And by the way, I would recommend using rice flour because it doesn't have the gluten in it, doesn't make it sticky. And if you've got little open spots here, where the folds came together, you can actually pinch them together, help heal them. And it doesn't matter so much because this is the bottom of the loaf, and when you take the loaf out of the oven, you'll see that the bottom's all craggy and stuff, but that's fine. So there we have it. We have 2 beautiful loaves ready for the last step, and in the morning we bake.